Okay, so hello and welcome back to another Unity tutorial. In this one we're going to be hopefully finishing the first character, Genji. We're going to be creating his wall climb, and then we'll move on to the weapon throw. So we'll have the left click 3 shurikens in a line and the right click 3 shurikens spread out in a cone. That's the goal for this video, and then I'm not going to bother with the Dragon Blade ultimate because all it is just simply swing, go melee mode for a bit, and then go back. It's nothing impressive, and I'm not going to bother with it for this series. You can obviously add it yourself if you want to, and then maybe send me a clip of it working if you're proud of it. But apart from that, yeah, we might as well get into it. I don't want this video to drag on too long. We are going to be covering 3 different things, so, well, 2 different things. So let's get into it now. Obviously, if you're already liking this series and you're watching it, then obviously consider leaving a like and subscribe. It'd mean a lot. And I'm going to thank my Patreon. So thanks to Michael, Paul Robinson, Forborm, and Norwegian Viking for their donations on Patreon this month. If anyone else is able to help and support the channel and community, then the link is in the description below to help keeping series like this going. So last time we made a big cube as a target to get on top of. Now obviously I have no cooldown, so right now I can just get my dash up there. But obviously we want to do it by wall climbing. So let's go into the code. What we need to do for the wall climb is we need a way to block the in the movement controller, we need to block the normal input code for handling gravity and moving around from input. We want to stop that whilst we are climbing, basically. While we're climbing, we want to override it. So Genji is going to need a extra variable. We're going to need a float for like climb speed, and maybe a private bool for is climbing. Let's set that equal to false. It's defaulted to false, but might as well. And the base.update is all of this code that handles that, and then the jumping is separate. So we do want to reset that whenever we're on the ground. So all we want to do around this update, on the base update, say if not is climbing, then do this. So we only want to do the base stuff when we're not climbing. And then, obviously, we want to know when we set it to climbing. So climbing is when you, obviously, you hold spacebar and the raycast, we're going to do a raycast forwards from the player and see if it hits the wall, for example. So we might also want to add another float for like wall raycast distance, for example. And what we'll do is we will make a coroutine. So I'll go down here, down to this indentation. Private I enumerator, and we'll call it climb. And what climb does is we start it when we're not climbing and we hold the spacebar, and then because when we are climbing, we don't want to be able to jump. Now, obviously, as soon as you release the spacebar, when you're climbing, you're going to fall anyway. So what we want to do is we want to say in the update, because jump gets called here in the update. So if we're telling it when we're not climbing, we can't do the update, then that's not going to happen. But if we set climbing to true as soon as we jump, so if we press spacebar, we don't actually care about the jump count in reality. It happens before that. The first thing that happens when we press spacebar is we're going to check if we can climb. So we want to say if physics dot raycast, and if we raycast forward, so we want to do a raycast transform dot position, so where we currently are in our forward direction, so transform dot forward. And we want to get some data out. So to get the data out, we're going to have to make a variable called, raycast hit. So we'll pass that in. And the reason we pass it in as an out parameter is because we don't set any data here. We kind of chuck it into this function, and then once the function's done, we get some data out to this variable. So it's going to tell us what we hit, how far away it was, well, if we hit anything at all. Let me think. So out what I hit, and then we're going to put in the raycast distance. Alright, let's make sure the variable's alright. So we got origin, direction, hit info, and max distance. Nice. So this is if we hit something at all, then what do we check? Well, if we hit something, then we're going to say we want to start climbing. But really, we only want to start climbing if the thing is climbable. So we'll say if hit dot, we're going to use now we'll say get component. So collider dot get component climbable. If the thing is climbable that we are like looking at, then so it does not equal null. So if it is climbable, we'll make that script in a second. The reason I'm using a script rather than a tag system is because, as I explained last video, if you're using tags on everything, you can only have one tag per object. So if you want to tag something with two different things, you can't. I think you can get assets in Unity people have made to add this. I know Unreal Engine already has it built in, and I don't know why Unity doesn't. I know quite a lot of people have complained about it. If any of you know a solution to this, apart from the one I'm going to use, which is just adding components like climbable, then obviously let me know, but for now this is the way I'm going to do it. So if we raycast and we find something that's climbable in front of us, then we want to start climbing. So start coroutine climb. That's the function, right? Or the code, yeah. So let's go back to Unity and quickly I will just go and put it in our base play thing, and we'll go climbable. What's wrong? Okay, climb doesn't return anything because it's a return type by enumerator. So what we want to do is, while we're climbing, we then want to check every frame again. We want to raycast forward to make sure the thing is still in front of us, that climbing object is still in front of us. So we want to make sure that what we can do is we can pass in a reference to, I don't know, a game object, for example, or a collider. We can pass in a collider. So, collider, wall, like climbable collider. Climbable, yep, I can spell. So we're going to pass in hit.collider. And then what we can do is, rather than raycasting every frame and getting a component, if it's just the same thing, then we know it's fine. So now we need to say while, and we need to do, we need to check that we're holding spacebar, because you only want to climb if you're still holding spacebar. Now, I guess one thing is, if we do start this, we don't want to do a jump. In reality, if you hold spacebar next to something climbable, you want to start climbing up it. That's up to you, I guess, but I'm going to say we're going to return there, so we don't get the rest of the jump code. So, while, and then we want to do more raycasting, but before we do the raycasting, we might as well check if we're holding space. Oops, I got Facebook open, let's just close that. So, while input.getKey, not get key down, because we want to make sure we're holding it, space. So while we are holding space, I need an extra close bracket there. I'll zoom in a bit as well. So while we're holding space, we want to raycast forward. So we'll do the same old, like up here, we'll do the, let me just zoom out, grab that. Alright, while we're holding spacebar, do a raycast, and make sure that the thing in front of us, because what if we get to something at the top and it's not climbable? Well, we want to stop climbing, so make sure that the thing we hit, if hit.collider is the same as the climbable collider that we, with the object we're climbing, then if we get to this point, we do want to keep climbing, basically. So what we'll do is we will then tell the character controller, which we have reference to, hopefully, .move, and we want to move upwards, so a new vector 3 with 0 on the x, and then for now I'll just put 0 on the y and 0 on the z. But the y is actually going to be our climb speed multiplied by time.delta time to make sure it's frame independent, as I keep saying. So while we're holding spacebar and we're hitting something in front of us, and it's the thing we're trying to climb, move upwards. And as soon as one of these things stops, so we want to basically just stop the climbing. Now, this is climbing thing at the start should get set, so is climbing is equal to true. And at the end, is climbing is equal to false. Now, every time in a while loop, when you do something, you want to return null, yield return. And what that means is it allows it to go to the next frame without finishing the function, which is the whole point of a coroutine, is that you don't have to finish all the code in the frame, because that's the entire reason you use one. So we want to yield return null. Now let me just make sure this is all right. So while we're holding spacebar and there's something in front of us. So what if there's nothing in front of us? Well, we want to stop climbing, so we can write continue, which if you double click on it, it shows the while, and what that means is it will actually no, continue just goes we want to break. Break does the same thing. I'm pretty sure in this case with a while loop it does the same thing, and I can't remember. This'll work. Break will basically just say, all right, get out of this while loop. And that means we'll just continue and we'll stop climbing. And just like here as well, if the thing is not what we're meant to be climbing, then we'll break as well. Cool. We can test this now. I've done quite a bit of coding without actually testing it, so let's go back and test it. We've got no errors. We've got Genji. I don't know how much of a speed we should give him, so well, actually, first of all, just for the sake of debugging, where we do this raycast, we should also do debug.drawArray just to, test. And we're going to say where we start. So we start at transform.position, and the direction is transform.forward multiplied by wall raycast distance, and it's color dot, I don't know, blue. And the duration may be 0.5f, and the duration is basically how long the raycast stays in the scene before it goes away. Now what I'll do is I'll split my screen so we can see this better. I'll go and position this next to the wall, and hopefully, fingers crossed, I mean I didn't set any speeds, so let's say let's say 1 and 2. Okay, so if I go up to the wall, did I not put the climbable thing on the wall? The wall, this one is climbable, and let's go set these values again. So I don't know, 1 and 2. So you go up to the wall, you hold spacebar, and as soon as I let go spacebar, I'll fall. And as you see, I'm not close enough to the wall right now, but as soon as I get this close, I can't use my movement input. I can't. Now, I noticed as well, if I turn around from the wall, then I fall because my forward direction doesn't have it anymore, but then I can jump and dash. So let's just increase the climb speed to like 5. So you go up the wall, and you get to the top. Now the only problem is currently, if I just zoom out here, you'll see that when I get to the top of the wall, because it's raycasting from my chest, it just kind of stops. And I haven't got a cooldown on wall climb. Oh, and then the only other problem is that our gravity is actually picking up whilst we're going up. So as soon as, if I just keep doing this, what will happen is I'll keep picking up full speed all this time. In reality, you just want to reset your Y at the top. So that's fine. Climb speed 5, raycast distance 1. Seems pretty good. So you have to be hugging the wall, which is fine. So we need to do a few tweaks, but that's going pretty well. So I'll keep the draw array for now, just to make it visible. So the problems we're getting, yeah. So our velocity Y, in reality, we want to reset it. Like basically, we want to call this function reset impact Y when we stop climbing. So reset impact Y as soon as we stop climbing. And what else was the problem? There's the problem. Was there another problem? Oh, and then yeah, when we get to the top, we just stop. So let's add a thing at the top saying serialized field private float, and we're going to add a force upwards when we get to the top to kind of like get ourselves over the edge. So we'll call it like edge up force. I don't know, whatever you want. So as soon as we've finished, we reset impact Y, but then we do want to add our own force afterwards. So add force vector3.up, comma edge up force. So as soon as we have got to the top, we'll add a bit of force upwards just to help us get over the edge. You could even add it. You could add a vector3 to that and make it go up and a bit forwards to to kind of help you in that direction, but because you've got full control over your movement, you can just hold forward, so there's no need. Let me just... Did I make that? Oh, edge up force, there it is. So, our jump force is 10, so we'll go with 10 as well. Just see how it goes. Let's go test this. So, oh, we're fast for some reason. There's no problem with that, but didn't realize how fast the character was. Oh, we're not going up now. Why aren't we going up? That's interesting. So the thing's climbable, and we go up and we go down. What's happened? Did I break anything? That I only changed stuff at the end. The wall is still climbable. Climb speed is 5. What have I done wrong? I'll just test that again. Maybe I have to do some debugging. It just looks like I do a jump, but then it doesn't keep me going upwards. So that's quite peculiar. Is climbing is true. In the update, if we're not climbing, debug.log is climbing. So if we just quickly press play and run up to it again, go to the console. So we're not climbing, we are climbing. It still counts as we're climbing, but we're falling down. And technically, whilst we're climbing, we shouldn't fall down because there's no force. So what are we doing? We're moving by climb speed. Climb speed on Genji is 5. What if I just went and put up to 10? What would happen? That's interesting. It was working a second ago and now it's just stopped completely working. I feel like what I should do is I should trace my steps backwards. Let's comment out the reset impact and the add force just to see if that's the problem. Obviously showing you these problems, like some people say, oh, you should cut these things out, but you know, these are just little things that I don't have a clue why they're happening. But let's see. Okay, that's weird because I didn't change anything. No, for some reason the movement control is duplicated. I don't know why that was. Anyway, that'll probably fix it. We had a Genji controller and a player controller, and obviously the player controller has gravity, and that's why I was really confused as to how somehow magically we were having gravity even though we disabled it while climbing. So let's try that again. So we go up, we go up, we go up, and at the top you get over the ledge. And as you're going down, you could fall off and you could come back up, climb up to the edge. Whoop. I think the edge force should be a bit higher. But actually, alright, let me go put it full screen now, see what we've got. So, I don't know where the other cubes are around there or something, yeah. So if I run up to this wall, and I hold up, and I press space on it, we go up to the top, and we jump over the ledge. So there we go, we've got a wall climb. It's not, you know, perfect, but I think it's a pretty good attempt, and it works pretty well, and obviously I can just dash up and then climb. If you've fallen off, you can climb up, then you can jump off. You can get your second jump as well, but it doesn't give you like a double jump off the wall because it doesn't actually do that in the game either. Once you've done that, you can dash and climb up the wall. I don't know, there's different, you might want to reset your jumps differently if you don't want the player to be able to go like wall jump, wall jump, wall jump. It's up to you, but that works. That's good. Quite like that. I'm going to actually increase the edge up force to be 15 just to give you, you know, more of a see. Oh, when I press apply there, it had the play movement controller back. That's interesting. Maybe that's just a bug with the prefab system. I don't know, that's weird. But anyway, I'll keep that in mind for future when I get problems like that. But anyway, we've done that. So now let's just end the video off doing the Shurikens, which is going to be pretty easy. So let's create an empty game object to be a Shuriken. So, I mean, I'll just use a sphere, to be honest. And we'll make it like 0.3, 0.3, 0.3. I could even just stretch it on one axis to make it more of a like... about 0.2, 0.4, 0.4, like some disk thing. Let's use that. I don't know why. Because a sphere collider obviously won't work for that. Whatever, I'll just go for 0.3, 0.3, 0.3. Just keep it a sphere, why not? Alright, so that's our projectile. Let's go to Prefabs. Call the sphere Genji. I honestly don't know how to spell Shuriken. Shuriken? That'll do. I could just look it up. Just to be Shuriken. Shuriken. There we go. So no one's going to flame me in the chat now for spelling it wrong. Anyway, we've got our Shuriken. A Shuriken. Okay, save it as a prefab. What does Shuriken have? It has a trigger collider, but, you know, we're not going to actually have it stick into things for this. We're just going to have it fly off in the right direction. You can write your own code for dealing damage and doing whatever. So I will just quickly make a script, though. A very simple script. Scripts. Call it like destroy on contact. And this is very simply just going to be namespace, creating characters. Did I make any of the ability? No, okay. We're just going to say in here on trigger enter, destroy game object. So it's going to destroy ourselves when we trigger enter. And I guess I'll also put on collider and no, I mean whatever. This is just a temporary thing so that it doesn't clutter up the scene. So we can go onto our Shuriken and give it a destroy on contact script. And one other thing we should probably do is we should go onto layer, create a layer and call it player, and then we'll make one called player projectiles. And that's so that we don't want our own projectiles affecting us and stuff, and we can use these layers later. So if we go to Prefabs, go to your player base, and go and set its layer to be player, change children, save, go back. If we go to Genji, he's now a player, cool. Go to Genji Shuriken, change the layer to be player projectiles, or you could put it player projectile, whatever. Cool. The thing is, we need to edit that. We need to go to our project settings. They've moved it around on the new Unity versions. I'll guess. Project settings. Physics? Yeah, there we go. So we've got this matrix down here, and you just have to uncheck the ones that say player collides with player projectiles. And that's it for now. Or you could also make player not collide with player, but you maybe want that. I don't know. There's not going to be any other player tagged objects anyway. Cool. Finally, we need to give it a rigid body, because do we want to do a rigid body movement? We could just use transform.translate for this one, because it's just going to go until it hits something. So we will give it a... Nah, let's give it a rigid body. Be simpler for this. Rigid body, turn off its gravity. And now we can use that. We need to save it. Alright. We'll write a script on the Genji, and we'll just call it Genji Shuriken Launcher. I should probably go put that into his folder. Alright, Genji Shuriken Launcher. So, namespace, creating characters, stop. Abilities. Alright, so the Genji Shuriken Launcher needs to have, what do we need to have in this class? Well, we need to have reference to the Shuriken. So, private game object, Shuriken prefab, and we want to have an update function where we say if input.get mouse button down 0, do this. If, well, I could make it an else if input.get mouse button down 1, do this. Okay, now obviously normally you'd have a cooldown between the attacks, but I'm not going to bother taking time to do that now. Just do it, you know, do it your own. It's literally just simple as having a variable for how long you have to wait between them, and then just having a time.delta time tick that kind of counts up and then counts down, and then when the time is run out. It's like a basic cooldown system. I'm sure you guys can handle that. So if we press the left mouse button, we want to fire 3 in a row with a slight delay, and then if we press the right click, we send them out in an arc. Now, one cool thing we could actually do, because I'm not going to fire them from the hand, I'm just going to fire them forwards, or like that way, that way, that way. So we can go to our Genji thing. Let's add private list of transform. Now we need to make sure we're using the right library. List of transform, projectile spawn transforms equals new list of that. So what that's going to do is it's going to allow us to create some empty game objects on the player to say basically where it's going to spawn. So we want to do it as a child of the player, just like how the arms are. So we're going to add an empty game object and go to that in the scene. So as you see, this is currently inside the player, so we don't want it spawned from inside the player, but we do want it to go forwards in that forwards direction. So let's go just move it forwards, down, move forwards a little bit, and up. So let's make that minus 0.3 on the Y. Is that about right? Yeah, that's about between the hands. And a thingy of 1. Seems about right. So that's our, should we say like middle Shuriken spawn. Can't spell. Middle Shuriken spawn. Then we'll duplicate that and call it left. So the one on the left is going to be rotated that way by minus 45 degrees. I mean, it's dependent, it's up to you. But the point is now the forward direction locally is in that direction. So we got one going that way, one going that way, and then we got a right Shuriken spawn, and that one's got a 45-degree angle on it. And now, if we go to our Genji and just lock that so I can easily drag these in. Just make sure, for the sake of this, it's in left, middle, right in that order. We'll pass in the Shuriken prefab. And now in the code, when we press the left mouse button, we want to send 3 of these with a delay. So I'll just make I'll do it up here, maybe under this. Come on. It's a float delay between Shurikens. So for the left one, we want it to maybe do a private enumerator. I don't know what you'd call, just like left click attack. And we'll start that here. So start coroutine, left click attack. And we know this will spawn one, wait for that delay, spawn another, wait for that delay, spawn another. So what we can do is we can say, I don't know, we'll just say int shurikens fired equals 0. And then we can say while shurikens fired is less than 3, we want to do something here, and then we want to return, we want to do yield return new wait for seconds, and then pass in our delay. So while it's less than 3, we want to spawn one, wait, spawn one, wait. So we will say instantiate the prefab at the index 1 in the list, so projectile spawn transforms 1 dot position. The identity, the rotation doesn't matter, and then we want to get its rigid body and add a force. So we can say game object projectile instance is equal to this, so we can store it, And then on the next line, projectile instance dot get component rigid body dot add force, and we want to add a force in its relative forward direction. So projectile instance dot forward dot transform dot forward multiplied by another float Shuriken launch force with 1 semicolon, and that's how much we're going to launch it by. So launch force, and finally it's an impulse. Well, actually it's just a velocity change because we don't care about the mass. Cool. And that's that done, and then at the end we have to say yield return null. Oh, what have I done here? Have I missed a semicolon? I have. Cool. Oops, I did not mean to actually click whatever I just did there. Need to make sure I got the right libraries imported. Cool. So that's a left click attack, and then, I mean, we could just quickly check whether this is working. So let's add a delay between shurikens of, it's very quick, so I'll go 0.2, launch force, 10. Let's see what happens. Okay, it's doing it forever, which is interesting. And it just keeps going in that direction. What's going on? I am, first of all, not increasing this. I mean, I can just do it here. Shurikens fired plus plus. And then the other problem is it launches them in their own forward direction. Because the rotation here is meant to be the rotation. I said the rotation doesn't matter, but it actually does matter. Forgot about that. I purposely set the rotation so that it would be angled accordingly. And now, play. We should be able to look somewhere and go pew pew pew. Pew pew pew. Pew pew pew. Obviously, you might want to make it faster and all, so you want to go the delay 0.1 and the force 20 or something. Then you can be like, and there you go. So that's the shuriken. I can get rid of the instance in the scene, I guess. Might want to apply that. I don't know why the stupid player movement controller keeps coming back. Let's just watch out about that. And finally, we'll do the right click. So the right click, we can just do it in here because it's just throw them all at once. So I know this probably isn't the most elegant way of doing it, but we want to spawn 3 things and then give them their own force in the direction. So we want to say instantiate the prefab. We want to loop through all of the transforms, don't we? So we'll say for each transform in projectile spawn transforms, we want to spawn. So let's just get that. But instead of 1, that's the problem. We want to just replace this, if it lets me, with transform. And the only problem we're using the word transform is this object has a transform. So we'll just call it spawn location dot position, spawn location dot rotation, without the P before it. So we're going to spawn 3 of them in their right positions with the right rotations, but the only problem is we need to then, add a force to each one in its forward direction. So, I mean, technically we just want to do this again, don't we? It's just inside a loop this time, so let me make sure I got to make sure it's right. Get that, get the rigid body, add a force in its forward direction. Yeah, that should work. I don't think we have to change anything there. We don't want a delay, so If I go left click, pew pew pew, if I go right click, then there's a problem if I go right click apparently. Let me just go to the scene. Why is the we're adding a force to the rigid body of that instance. We're spawning it there, that rotation, we're timesing it by that and adding a velocity change to the projectile, which is a bit odd why it's going really quickly, because we do want to oh, no, I get it. Silly me. Go back to your project settings and make sure your player projectiles don't collide with each other. I feel like, oops, the likely problem here is that they're colliding with themselves and instantly destroying. There we go. Alright, that works. Cool. Alright, I can end the video now, it's a long video. So, if we left click, we got pew 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 forwards. If I right click, it spreads out the free. Obviously, you can tweak the angles that it spreads them out. And then if you left shift, you dash, and if you hold spacebar, you climb up to the top. And then pew 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 pew. I haven't got a crosshair, I haven't got cooldowns, but the point is it works. Obviously you want to tweak the speeds. But anyway, I hope you liked this video. It got on very long. If you like this series, and obviously it would be very appreciated for people to leave a like and subscribe and then help support in any way possible. Obviously these videos take quite a while to make and plan and get it all working. But yeah, so that's the first character done. If any of you got suggestions for more characters to come, then obviously I look forward to starting those. This was quite an in-depth one with a lot of movement related stuff, so hopefully we'll get more fun, like cool projectiles that do like cool things and sticking in walls and shooting out tripwires, I don't know, just cool things. Just, you know, leave your ideas below and I'll look forward to making them. So apart from that, thanks for watching, hope you enjoyed this mini series, and apart from that, goodbye.